All right. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Hopefully pretty good. I'm heading out here for my afternoon route, my Tuesday afternoon jobs that I do. Gonna tell y'all a little story here. We haven't had a story time in a while, have we, on these little talk videos? I give you a tale of two clients that I had last year. Two clients that I'm no longer working for. And we'll talk a little bit about what happened and how I was surprised with how disloyal one client was. And loyalty in business, is something that a lot of people talk about these days. I see a lot of other YouTubers in the community, talking about it. A lot of other guys, change this up real quick there. A lot of other guys in the community talk about loyalty and how, I see it said a lot that, your customers don't care, and whatever happens to you doesn't matter to them. All they care about is getting their lawn cut or their, sod installed or their job done. And to an extent, there's an element of truth to that. At the end of the day, your customers have hired you to perform a service, whether it's a recurring service like lawn care or it's, a one-time service like a patio install or, pavers or something like that. They've hired you to do a job, and that's really the biggest concern in their head. But there is also an element to the fact that, an element of truth to the argument that, at least in the terms of from the side of a recurring service business like the one that I operate, they do care about you to an extent. And if you build a relationship with clients, they will, in many cases, they will care about you and what happens to you. Case in point, last year when I was hurt, there was a couple of months stretch where I couldn't do that much. I couldn't do a whole lot of work. And I had to communicate this to people, and it was very hard. It was very hard for me to communicate with people. It was very difficult for me personally to tell people, in many cases, people that I'd worked for 3 or 4 years, 5 years, hey, I can't do this service this way anymore, or I can't do this service, at all anymore for a while, and there was an element of uncertainty there, in some cases where you were almost, the doubt and the worry in your head was telling you, what if I'm out for good? What if this is it for me? I went through a lot of that, and I had to balance what you tell the customers. You're not going to tell the people I'm quitting or whatever, but at the same time, I had to be honest, and I had to tell people what was going on with my health, and after I had the surgery, I had to tell people, I can't come out for a few weeks, month, it ended up being a couple of months, but it was the end of the season, so it wasn't a big deal. But anyway, back to the story. I had two clients last year that I worked for. One client I had worked for about 5 years, nice people, but I didn't know them all that well. I'd worked for them, every week mowing their lawn. Good people, as far as I knew. I didn't know them that well. Like I said, I've only seen them a handful of times. And this other couple that I worked for, I had known them and their family for many years, going back to my childhood, honestly, going back to, as a kid in the 90s growing up, I knew them. I played baseball with their son. Knew their family and everything, and they had hired me last season to take care of their lawn, and so it was the first time I was actually working for them, but everything was going smoothly. Everything was going real well, until I got hurt and I couldn't do the work, and for whatever reason they didn't understand. I think they took it very, very personally, which is kind of bizarre because they weren't the ones that were hurt, but they took it kind of insultingly, it seemed. And even though they finished the season out with me, they never reached back out, and they actually ghosted me. They ghosted me this upcoming season, so when I reached it back out, like I typically do in the spring, late winter, early spring, to get people on the schedule, they left my message on red. I could see it said red, but they never answered. They never responded. And a few days later, I drove by the property, and it had been mowed already. So, and they've since had new grass put in, and they've had the property's been maintained and everything. And I understand letting people go. I just, in my opinion, it was some disloyalty there because, they should have at least taken the time to tell me and text me, hey, we're not going to use you or whatever. Or, we didn't like how you treated us last year, go to hell, whatever, it doesn't matter how, professional or unprofessional they were about it. I would have preferred to have been notified, that way rather than just ghosted and left to wonder, And the people that I didn't know very well, that were strangers, just I had a business relationship with, the gentleman, reached out a couple of times and, told me basically after he couldn't get me on the phone because I was doing another job, he called me a few times. We played phone tag a couple of times back and forth, and then finally he sent me a long text message, basically, hey, we've got a landscape installation company that does hardscapes and construction and whatnot. He said we've hired them to do this landscaping installation project for us, and he said part of the deal with them is they have a company or one side of that division or whatever, or they have a sub with another company, something like that. I don't recall all the details offhand, but he did explain it to me. But basically, he said that part of the deal is they're going to take over the lawn maintenance, mowing the yard and trimming the bushes and everything. And he said it's nothing against you. You did great for us, even when you were hurt and you couldn't do a lot. You did your best and you could, and we understand. We thank you for your service the last 5 years. And while it was unfortunate, I was like, that's sad to lose a good client like that. I understand, and I'm okay with it. It's not bad for me. It's not like, these other people that just left my message on red and never got back to me. That's some kind of shite that I don't want to tolerate. That's the kind of thing, that just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It's not something I would do to a client. I wouldn't just leave a client hanging like that. If I wasn't going to work for somebody anymore, I would straight up tell them. And it's happened a few times. It's not very common for me in my business, but I have a few times let people go, and that's been how I've done it. Text them, hey, I can't work for you anymore, or I'm too busy, or I'm just not able to do the service that you want, whatever the reasons are. I always try to be professional and be upfront about things like that, and it's a matter of respect, mutual respect. When you respect somebody, you want to notify them of any changes that you're going to do. And communication, have communication is key with your clients, which I know some people, I guess, don't have very good communication. Not throwing anybody out there specifically, but I see a lot of turnover in this business, and I think that has one thing to do with it. Is one thing that has to do with it a lot is lack of communication with your customers. But yeah, going back to loyalty, loyalty. Every single one of my clients, when I was hurt, except for 2 or 3, every single one of them were, expressed support, thoughts and prayers, whatever it may be. Some people, said, yeah, we'll find someone else for a month or 2 or 3, A few people, in all honesty, I actually referred a few people out to, another company in the area and said, hey, give these guys a call. They can take care of you. They have a crew. I don't have a crew. I did have guys that helped me a little bit, but it was one of those things where I didn't have them every single day. And when you're running a business where you're out working every single day and you're solo, in a sense, a little bit of it, I got a little bit exposed in a sense, in that, there's only so much you can do without hiring people. But that's a whole nother can of worms there. But anyway, every single one of my clients that told me, basically that I communicated with, they said, oh, we're sorry to hear about your situation. We'll don't worry about it. Do what you can, or whatever you can do. If you can't, that's fine too. We'll get somebody else, and we'll bring you back after that. After the time when you're able. Every single one of them that told me that, I have back now. Like, I didn't lose any of them. I may have lost some work, in the sense that I wasn't able to work for a little while for them, but ultimately, I didn't lose them as customers, in the long run. And that's the important thing. That's what matters. But that also demonstrates loyalty, and it shows that people do care. Your clients do care, despite what some people might say. Ultimately, this is especially true in residential, but they do care. And if you build up a relationship with them, they will care what happens to you, and they will, treat you well. You just have to treat them well as well. You have to reciprocate that. So, yeah, I've learned a lot in the last year or so, going through everything that happened. We're coming up on in about a month. It'll be a year, 1 year since I knew, I was diagnosed, and I knew exactly what I was dealing with. But this time last year, I was working. I had not yet stopped and kind of taken a step back and halfway shut myself down, as it were. But I didn't know exactly yet what was wrong with me and what was going on. So I was still out there, busting my ass every day, getting things done, not paying attention to my body. But this season's different, and a lot of the reason I'm still thriving and I'm still in business is because of loyalty and because of people who, I counted on, that people that could count on me, to perform the service, and they trusted me, and I trusted them as well. I trusted that they would, still be there, and they would still use me after I was good to go, good to return, and that's something you just you just can't teach. It's just something that develops. And I guess you could say that, the Lord has blessed me in that sense that, my client base, for the most part, understands. And the ones that didn't, are no longer here. They're no longer clients of mine. Oh, one of these days I'll talk about, and I might do an in detail video about some of the other people that that I don't work for anymore. But I don't know. I don't want to go out and attack anybody. That's not the point of my videos. I don't really want to resort to petty insults of previous clients, but anyway, we'll see. We'll see where it takes me. All right. Well, I'm about up here at the first job of the afternoon here. So got a couple up here to do. Okay. Yeah, it's growing really nice. Nice and thick, like that. All right, thank you for taking the time to watch my video, and hope you have a good day and stay hydrated. Definitely, it's a hot one out there.